Welcome to Elizabeth Plants. I am Elizabeth and today we are doing a mass repotting, and I'm finally getting to those questions you asked me on Instagram and on the YouTube community post I put out like 2 months ago. I have 6 plants that I'm repotting. I'm repotting them all into self-watering pots that I've been using for a lot of my hanging plants actually, and I've got quite a few other plants that I'm going to repot into those. I'm hoping we can get to them all in a reasonable amount of time. If not, I may break this video up into 2 parts. If you're seeing this, you know. But I've got my soil, I've got all the plants on the ground, and then I've got my questions printed out. So first, let's take a look at the pots. I'm going to start with my Monstera because I want that one in self-watering more than I care for the others to be in self-watering. So this is my Monstera, the pot it's currently in. This is the self-watering pot. This is just kind of the base of the pot. Then I've got all the innards stacked. Oh, but they stack really tight. And they come with these little like level guys, so you can see how much water is underneath this. So it just kind of sits in there like that. Put the plant in here. And actually what I like to do, I don't know if it makes a difference, but if you could, well, like all of these things down here, you can see there's like holes in there. I fill those with leca or stones or something, just to kind of keep that barrier between water and soil. I don't know if it's necessary. I've had poor luck in times when I haven't done that. So naturally I start by putting a little bit of leca in there. I don't necessarily feel the need to fill the entire base with leca, primarily because this is pretty short. And honestly, the biggest okay price self-watering that looks like this that I could find. Because these very simple white pots is definitely my aesthetic for the most part. And I don't have small leca. If I had small leca, I might be more inclined to put a small layer. So I just kind of put a layer. You can put a small layer if you prefer. Also, back when I planned on doing this video originally, a lot of these plants were a lot smaller. So I'm hoping their root systems fit in these pots because I don't have any more larger pots. But let's just get started. I recently put this guy on the moss pole, so I'm really going to try and keep it so I don't have to detach it. I probably feel like I didn't think this process through. I'm gonna go get another tub to put the old dirt in. I don't have like a repotting mat, so I'm just going to dump all the old soil in here. So, is there a maximum number of plants that I would have in my home? No. I think that sticking to a certain number doesn't really make a ton of sense, because I can have 50 tiny plants and it barely be noticeable, or 50 giant plants and not have space to move. So really it just comes down to space. If I don't have space for more plants, I'm not getting more plants. Whereas, okay, I'm gonna have to put this pole down a little lower. If I don't want more plants. If I'm comfortable with the collection I've got going, then I'm not going to get more plants. So I think it really just comes down to space and ability to care. So if I've got more plants than I have time and ability to care for, then that's too many. And if I have more plants than I have space for, then that's too many. So it's not really number and more space. So I want to talk about this moss pole really quick because I am new to these moss poles. I was originally going to make moss poles for all the plants that I'm putting in self-watering, but I just have not had time. So I decided to try out these core ones because you can always add another post to the top. I do not prefer the aesthetic of the core of these. I prefer a green moss aesthetically. I don't know, because I haven't been using them long enough, if like the plant cares. I care a little bit, but I don't know. And I've heard that the roots don't really grab onto the cocoa core ones. I'm not really too sure. I've only had them about a week at this point, I think. Alright, let's do another question. Do you ever feel people judge you for collecting plants? Yes and no. So judge implies like people are kind of rude or mean about it. I feel like some people judge it without the intent on like belittling or hating on it. I think that some people judge me positively, and sometimes people judge me in like the context of their lives. So what do I mean by that? Some people ta-da! I think it looks great. So what do I mean by that? I think that some people judge me positively in that they're like, wow, you must be like really good at caring for plants. They must love you. You must have a green thumb, if you will, which is a whole nother conversation. But so I get positively judged. And then I also think when people judge me, quote unquote, negatively, it's never about me personally. It's generally about themselves. So people will say like, oh wow, you have a ton of plants. I would kill those plants. I don't know how on earth you keep them alive. I couldn't live amongst that many plants. I don't understand how you handle the clutter. Or I couldn't do XYZ. I don't know how you do it. So it's less about me personally. Nobody ever attacks me personally. But they judge me in the context of their own lives and their own interests and things like that, which doesn't bother me. So next I am going to do my melanochrysum. I do believe this is a long or a medium leaf, but I am not 100% sure. I simply do not remember. Yeah, I didn't write it on the tag. But that's okay. I like it regardless. It was one of my, I believe, from the very, very first Green Spaces order that I got. And I have trimmed off the top. And I do not believe the cuttings are ready to go back in the pot, which is unfortunate because I'm repotting it, but whatever. Next question. Are there any common plant tips that you think are overrated or myths? I have been thinking very hard about this question. And I'm trying to think of like common plant care tips that are myths And I feel like I don't have enough for sure information to answer this question. I know a lot of people say like misting your plants doesn't do anything for humidity or for the plants, or it even maybe hurts plants even though people recommend it for humidity. I don't find any of the above to be true. I mist my plants because it makes me feel good. I don't find that it harms or helps the plants. It raises the humidity for a couple of moments, makes me feel like I've done something without actually watering and ruining the roots, and nobody gets hurt. So I don't think that it's like overrated or a myth. I mean, maybe I guess it's a myth, but I don't think it's overrated. I think it has a purpose. If I am misting my plants, I am therefore not overwatering and killing them, you know? This guy's got some beautiful, beautiful roots. If you can see that. I'm not going to hold it any further that direction. I'll make a mess. But beautiful roots. And a nice curvy spine like I've got. There was a second half to that question. Oh, she just clarified for like general plant care or specific plants. Yeah, I guess the misting is the only thing that I've ever really thought of in regards to this question. So, I guess that's my answer. As far as for specific plants, I really don't think. I kind of take specific plant care with a grain of salt, because oftentimes it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work in my specific environment. So you kind of have to take stuff like that with a grain of salt. One thing that I do not like about these poles is how long the like wooden dowel underneath is. It's just not good enough for these pots. These pots are just not deep enough for them. And it makes it way too difficult. All right, what's the next question? How did your passion start and when? So I'm going to assume we're talking about plants, because that is relevant. How did it start? So I was in undergrad, and I want to say it was like my third year or something like that, and I really wanted something to take care of. I had a bearded dragon at home. However, it wasn't allowed on campus, so my mom was caring for it, and my dog was at home, and I wasn't living at home with my parents. So I wanted something to take care of, and I thought a plant would be perfect. I grew up, my mom always had like ivy around, and she did really great with plants, and so I thought that would be a great dorm-friendly, apartment-friendly option. And so I asked my parents for a plant for Christmas, and they got me a Scindapsus pictus, and I still have it to this day. It is on my hanging wall. If you haven't seen that video, go watch it. So that is how I got started. That was approximately 2015, might have been 2016. I don't really remember. I graduated from undergrad in 2016. So before December of 2016, which makes me think that it was 2015. There's a second part to that question. What is your favorite plant? My favorite plant changes often. However, if I had to pick like a favorite type of plant, I think I go back and forth between alocasia and aroids. I don't think alocasia are considered aroids, but I really like the growth patterns and like how easy philodendrons specifically are. But I know there's a ton of different aroids, and I really like them. However, I love alocasia as well. Alocasia are harder to take care of, and I think that's why I go back and forth between those two, because it's always nice to have a plant that loves you easily, but when caring for an alocasia and things go right, you know you're doing it because they don't love easily. So I kind of go back and forth between those two. So we've got this guy. I generally don't really care if these little things are behind the plant or in front of the plant. I can always spin the plant to look at it. It doesn't make a difference for me. Next is my reverted Preso Verde. While it is reverted, I still think it is a extremely beautiful plant. I really like the way that it looks up on my shelf. Looks like it could use some mite treatment. I'll stick it behind the camera where there's no plants after the repotting, and then I'll go treat it after the video. But yeah, I don't know. I really like the way the plant is growing. So while I'm upset it's not what I wanted, I do still love it. This is the most recent leaf, and it's so long and beautiful. I'd say that's like a foot long. It's awesome. Next question. Have you ever imported plants from overseas? What was the process and condition of the plants? So, yes, I have imported from overseas. I have imported from Green Spaces ID 3 times, and I currently have an order open with Greenhouse. I think that's how you pronounce it. However, that order just went through, so it'll be a while before you guys see the unboxing. But yes, I have imported from overseas. So what was the process? The process with those 2 specific shops was just like any other online order I've ever done, except more nerve-wracking. Because you never know what's going to happen with an overseas, especially right now, because it seems that some countries are spraying for like disinfectants, and it's killing some of the plants in like transport. So while I am doing it, I do not recommend it. So that's the process is just like any other shop, at least for me in the US. Now this may vary in your country. I do not know because I do not live in your country, so I have never had to look it up unless your country is the US. So with Green Spaces and Greenhouse, you need a phytosanitary certificate. However, they automatically add that to your cart, and I have not had any issues with that just being what it is. Now the condition has depended. I have significantly less luck with alocasia, to be expected, than I do with philodendron and arrowhead syngoniums. However, I have had alocasia which have come back from their bulbs after some poor condition in transport, and I have also had alocasia that just did not make it. So it really, really, really just varies. You cannot expect any one outcome over another. You just have to be okay with the fact that it may not go to your preference. Alright. Next question. Most challenging plant in your collection to get a hold of or track down, and tell the story of how you got it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't really seek out specific plants really at all. I seek out shops. And then if I like enough of what the shop has, I will make an order. However, I really don't seek out specific plants. And I don't really have any good stories. I mean, there have been plenty of plants where I've been like, ooh, actually this is on my wish list and this shop has it for a good price. Do they have anything else I want? Do I find it worth the money right now considering my financial situation personally? Can I be okay with their shipping cost of that specific shop? And then I either get it or I don't. I was trying to get an Anthurium veitchii King. However, I did not seek out that plant. It just simply happened to be in the shop amongst some other plants that I decided I wanted. And I ended up not being able to get it. If you want to hear the story of that plant, it is in my most recent unboxing titled like I have no idea what's going on or something like that. But so you can get that story over there because I don't want to retell it again so soon, especially. Favorite plant and most problematic plant. So my favorite plant, we've already talked about like types of plants. I would say currently my favorite plant is probably going to be, that's such a hard question. I really like my Thai sunrise right now because it's just going to town and we'll actually be repotting it later. And I really like my variegated Maranta. I do not know if, while I really like them right now, I would consider either of them my favorites. I think really love my Alocasia Monster. But again, I really struggle with spider mites with that plant, so I don't think I can consider it my favorite. That's just a hard question. I feel like I don't have favorites. However, the other side of that question, most problematic plants in my collection right now. I would definitely say that my Birkin is super problematic, and my philodendron horsehead, my bipennifolium, I actually don't I think I have like a stump cutting, but I just can't get it alive. I got a really poor cutting maybe 6 months ago and it just has done nothing but go downhill since. So those two are probably my most problematic right now. I'm going to put this guy over there to remind me that it may have a mite problem and I need to treat it. Awesome. Next. Well, I talked about it, so let's do my Thai sunrise. So we've got this baby. Does have one of my homemade moss poles, and he is too tall for the camera. Oh gosh. There we go. He's going to town, and I just wanted to give him more space to grow. So we're gonna do that. What's the next question? So we've kind of already went over this question. How long have you been collecting plants? What got you into plants? And what are your wish list plants? So we've already talked about how long I've been doing plants and what kind of got me into it, but I'll go a little bit further into what got me into it. Because I told you about my first plant, but how did it progress from there? So I actually had that one plant for a long time. And then I was dating somebody at the time who was into geckos, and we went to a reptile show, and one of the booths had like really neat plants. One of them was like in a giant fish bowl, and it was a bonsai of some kind. That guy didn't make my move from Michigan to North Carolina, and then from North Carolina back to Michigan. So I don't have them anymore. But in another orb was my string of turtles, and I really liked them. The guy I was dating at the time knew the booth owner, so I got a deal on them, and I bought them, and I really, really liked them. I had those 3 plants, so those 2, and then my pictus when I moved from Michigan to North Carolina for grad school. And when I was in North Carolina and like moving in, I was buying stuff to make my apartment a home because I was living by myself. And so I thought I'd get a couple of houseplants. I got a couple from Walmart. And then when I was there, I discovered a local plant shop, and it just started going crazy from there. I didn't buy anything online until probably a year ago. Pretty much everything I had in my collection below 60 plants. Like once I started getting past 60, I started having to branch out a little bit more for shopping. But everything in my first 60 plants was like a Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, Meijer, if you're familiar with Meijer, grocery store plant. So that's kind of how my collection progressed. Then if we're going to talk wish list, I feel like that's something I should make a separate video about. Are you guys actually interested in me, like, because I have like a formal wish list in my bullet journal. Would you guys be interested in a video where I kind of went through some of my wish list plants and maybe like why they're on my wish list? Comment down below if that's something you actually want to see me do, because I'll do it if you guys actually want to see it. Oh shoot, I forgot about Lekka. Awesome. Next question. Favorite plant? I already answered that question. Top 5 plants that I have in my home. So that's a little bit more specific than favorite plants. Top 5 plants. I think my Thai Sunrise is up there in the top 5. Albo variegated Syngonium is up there for sure. I'm really, really liking my Maoi. Somebody tell me below how you're supposed to pronounce them, but my philodendron Maoi, Mayoii. It's behind me, but you probably can't see it. At least not too well. But it's been growing really well. That's 3, right? I think so. Probably my Pasta Xanum. Did I say Alocasia Monster? Just in case I already said Alocasia Monster, then I would have to pick probably my Philodendron Paraiso Verde. Because it is just really pretty. And honestly, these plants are my current favorites. It'll probably change next week because currently these plants are thriving without my attention, and that's cool. But next week, another couple of plants will probably also be thriving, and I'll be over. I'll move on. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you guys have like ever-changing favorites? Because I feel like it always changes for me. It depends on the day, on the week. Just depends. Another plant down. Ta-da! What I will probably end up doing with these couple of plants, I know you can't really see me. I'm sure you'll be okay not seeing me. You're not here for me anyways. You're here for the plants. But I'll probably water them thoroughly from above with just the black part, just the tray. in my bathtub so I can rinse the entire plant down thoroughly. And then in maybe a week or so, I'll fill the tank up so that it can become self-watering. But I want to water the soil thoroughly at least once before filling the tank and continuing the self-watering. Alright, the next plant I'm really excited about. So we've got my Rhaphidophora decursiva. I was going to wait until we did this video to do a couple modifications and then put it on a moss pole. However, I got tired of waiting, I suppose. So I trimmed the top off and have the top propagating. I had a bit of a runner and it was really getting in the way. And so in order to kind of stimulate maybe another growth off of the main plant, and then also to maybe add to the bottom or have a separate version of this plant, I trimmed off the top. I stopped trimming at this point, and you're not going to be able to see it because my camera's way over there, but I did it right here instead of going down further because there are already 2 growth points. There are one right here, and then there is one right here. I believe these are growth points and not roots, like aerial roots. So I didn't want to trim down further without any leaves on this branch for it to grow from. So that these beautiful leaves can help these little growth points become something grand before I trim back. But, so that's exciting. I'm sorry that I didn't wait for you guys. But essentially it was crawling. And I really want it to climb. So I want to train it up. However, that's going to be a lengthy process because of how hardcore crawl it is. So right now there is a moss pole in here. However, I couldn't quite get it to the moss pole, so I've got a couple stakes in here just kind of helping it start to guide up. We'll see. It's been like this for maybe a week. We'll see what we can do for it. You're not going to be able to see me. Hopefully you can hear me. We'll work with it. You're on to the second page of questions. Oh my goodness, did I print doubles? I printed doubles, so there's no more questions. If you have more questions and you want me to do another one of these videos where I answer questions and repot, comment down below your questions. Take these stakes out. I'd like to amend my list of top 5 favorites. I think this guy's definitely in it. I was a little discouraged when it started running, but then when I started seeing the new growth points, I became encouraged. Now this is the original pot it came in. So it's never been repotted in this household. We've got a little bit of rot. It looks like. That's a bummer. Not much though. We've got lots of white roots. So it might be old rot. I'm going to kind of mess with the roots quite a bit because of like the way it's crawling. I cannot really guide it up without shifting the root system. So while this may be controversial, the whole messing with roots thing, I'm going to mess with my roots. At the very least, I've got cuttings over there that are doing fine. If you are going to mess with your roots, I recommend that you are gentle. It may not appear on camera like I am being gentle, but I promise you, I am being gentle. So I think this is the best I can do. I need to tuck These roots. And then she's not quite ready to be tied up at the top, so I'm going to tie very loosely if I can. I may need more. You know what I've got? I've got these twist ties. I'll do that until I'm able to get more tape. They're not very strong. I don't necessarily need them to be very strong for this temporary solution. Awesome. So this is the final one that I'm going to do in this video. I know I said that I have 6, but I ran out of questions, so I'll do the 6th on my own time. And I'll put this guy right here for your viewing pleasure while I outro. So if you want to see more of these types of videos, definitely comment down below with more questions that you have. I'd love to answer them. Feel free to ask like specifying questions to something I've already answered if you want to know more. And hopefully I'll be able to answer them. If you have any specific care questions, put them down below as well, because I'd love to do more care type videos. I'm trying to branch out and be able to do those videos. They do take a little bit more time than something like a repotting questionnaire would, as far as preparation goes. But put anything you'd like to see down in the comments down below. Of these 5 plants that I repotted, which is your favorite? Which is on your wish list? Do you have any of them? Which do you hate? Do you have trouble with any of them? Let's talk about these 5 plants down in the comments down below. If you like this type of content, planty content and related, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. 80% of you who watch me do not subscribe. If you subscribe, you get notified when I go live with a video, and you'll be able to see my video first. So definitely do that. Ring the bell if you want to be of the first to see my videos, and I will see you next time.